All right, Coach Lee here. We just had a vigorous time trials state championships this past weekend in Virginia, and I wanted to bring it down. I had a few athletes that did this, but I had one that won his age category for this 21-mile event by 5 minutes. He absolutely crushed it. So let's break down his data. Let's look at the course. Let's look at all the things that he did to get to this moment in time. He's absolutely having a crusher of a season. So let's kind of break all that down. But first, I want to start with a quote. There are brilliant coaches out there that come up with these brilliant one sentence quotes, right? That take this huge amounts of knowledge and are able in writing just to make this, brilliant phrase or whatever. Like, under fueling is overtraining, things like that. So after watching this and just getting immersed in this data, I finally came up with one sentence that really summarizes endurance sports. Endurance sports are a year-by-year layering of workload while facing numerous obstacles, soaring highs, and debilitating lows, all to achieve your goals, right? And so when I look at endurance athletes, you cannot cram for the exam in these things. It is a layering of week after week, of month after month, of season after season, year after year, dealing with all the blows that life is going to throw at you, dealing with the soaring highs, and yeah, those debilitating lows. And the lows for endurance athletes can go pretty low. My own experience, my athletes that I work with, but again, we have to remember this is all part of the process. And this particular athlete has had all of the above to come back. He's been with me for about 3 years to come back this season stronger than ever after a lot of setbacks, and he's absolutely on a scorcher of a season. So let's look at some data. This is the course. It's a great course, right? It's out and back, right? Pretty much as flat as you can get. It was 21 miles. The course, they said it was only 20 miles, but it's actually 21 miles. This is a fairly well-ridden time trial in Virginia. A lot of different organizations use this as their event time trial. It makes for a perfect state championships. It's definitely on the East Coast, and you can run down from DC, Maryland, New York, up from Florida, wherever. There's my guy right there, and he's not known to smile, but we almost got him to smile right there with that thing. So let's look at some data now. He had an average cadence for this. So he finished this 21-mile course in 48 minutes, which was his personal PR. Crucial to all of racing is that you have to pre-ride the course. And so he had an average cadence of 80. He is in his mid 60s, like 63, 64. He just had a birthday. But yeah, that's a great cadence. A great power, average power, 302 watts, watts per kilogram. He's almost at 4 watts per kilogram. Average speed, 26 miles an hour. So this is no joke. He's going fast, and to go faster is going to take a lot of thinking in terms of tech, bike, fit position, wind tunnel experience, all kinds of great stuff. Normalized power 305. It was really flat. He was, 99% of his FTP. He only had a coasting time of 7 seconds. There is a turnaround, and there is this small, narrow bridge that it's kind of awkward that you have to go around. And he is a grinder. He had high force, low cadence for this thing. He settled in with his gearing, and he just let it rock out. So before we go into this athlete, let's look at a picture of his last 365 days. He's a great example of life just throwing some just brutal stuff at you. So again, he's new to cycling. He came to me 3 years ago wanting to win, wanting to do some big things in events. Okay, so we brought him up and to a great FTP, breaks his collarbone in a crash. Obviously, he has to take some time off the bike. We bring him back up, then he has to get his shoulder replaced. Then he has to take some time off the bike. Then we bring him back up. And last September in the Gran Fondo National Series, he was going for all the glory. But if you remember that particular race last September, was raining, there was sleet. I had some reports of lightning from some of my athletes. I had 5 athletes in that race, and there was one really bad crash where he did have to go to the hospital. So he was out again for a while. But we brought him back up over the fall. We had a great base season over the winter. That time between, Thanksgiving to St. Patrick's Day. We brought him back up and to stronger than he's ever been. And he has had a scorcher of a season. Crucial to dialing in your TT is that you have to race the TT. You have to know your numbers and where you're at. So it's great for a TT to act, a TT specialist, until they really get their bearings, until they really understand their numbers. They have to do a lot of races. So coming into this race, I believe he had about 13 TTs this season already, which is a lot. Coming into this race, did nationals last weekend, set an all-time during that race, an all-time FTP. And in this race, again, he set an all-time FTP, and he is just on fire. But how did he get here, right? This just doesn't come out of anywhere. So if we look at his last 365 days, this is his time in zones. And this is my coaching philosophy. There's a lot of different coaching philosophies of how much time an athlete should spend in zones. But pretty much for me, for endurance athletes, where you're a runner that I work with, a swimmer that I work with, a triathlete that I work with, or a cyclist that I work with, I am all about developing your aerobic engine. Everything sits on top of that aerobic engine. FTP is a measurement of your aerobic engine. You want your best VO2 ever? Then have a great aerobic engine. You want your best sprint ever? Then really work on that aerobic engine. And so we have here is his time in zones for the last 365 days, and his zone 2, almost 240 hours. And now what I love about this is that for a lot of professional athletes, especially those in the Peloton, this is exactly what their time in zones will look like. So if we look at, if we could grab Tadej Pogacar's time in zones, they are going to look similar lot to this. This is the type of rider that he is. All the research that I've done is that this is the type of training that he's doing, where you have basically 90% of your time in zones 1, 2, and 3, and then you develop the other intensity as needed. You develop it throughout the year. I have athletes doing sprints year round. I have athletes doing VO2 workouts roughly every 15 workouts throughout the year, and then I'll do dedicated VO2 blocks. But this is essentially what I'm looking at, and he nailed it. Most of his time was outdoors. So this is just a fantastic, disciplined athlete. But I'm a certified nutritionist. The reason I became a certified nutritionist is because I was working with athletes nutritionally. I was handing them off to other nutritionists, and I really wanted to take control of that bull, if you will, in that you can have the best time in zones that you've ever had. You can completely just rock your plan out. But if you're not getting sleep, if you're not hydrating correctly, if you're not getting enough protein in your life, then you're only going to go so high in this game. You're 24/7. What you do 24 hours, 7 days a week determines your ceiling. Yes, if he wants to go harder, he wants a bigger FTP, things like that. Yeah, we're going to have to layer up some more volume next year. But for this year, he dialed in his 24/7 24/7. He hired me as his nutritionist. In my nutrition philosophy, when someone hires me as a nutritionist, whether you're an athlete or non-athlete, I give you a 3-month plan. And this is a metabolic plan. It's all about hydration. It's all about eating. It's all about going to the grocery store. It's all about protein, quality of foods, seed oils. Yeah, let's get out seed oils. Let's go through everything that you're eating. And I'll just tell you an example of how committed that he was. So I personally believe that you should not be using Teflon to cook with anything. We go through this plan. I have a whole week on obesogens, things that are environmentally that we have in our households, that we have in our lives that might not be healthy for us. They're called obesogens. And one of those things, I get Teflon out of your life. Cook on stainless steel or ceramic. Get the Teflon out of his life. That day, that came up in his training peaks, obesogens, Teflon. I got a whole thing for him to read. That day, he went through his whole entire house, and I'm sure his wife was really happy. He got rid of all the Teflon. So he was 100% all in with dialing in his 24/7, getting sleep, as best sleep as you can, best quality, quantity, hydration, like all of those key things on a daily level. Man, he rocked out and nailed. And I know we tracked it all. So he was thoroughly dedicated to this process, right? So I've seen it so many times where I can have an athlete come into me and he's only going to go this high. We start to dig into his 24/7, make changes. Then we start to think, we start to see that go up. Me, myself, I drank a lot in, 2010, 2011, 2012. And about 4 years ago, I just got rid of all alcohol in my life, no alcohol whatsoever. And I've been tracking my data with Power since 2012. And all of a sudden, get rid of alcohol. Even though I'm training, I'm never missing a workout. I've got a coach who's put people on the world stage. And all of a sudden, everything that all my data went up. And I'm still hitting my all-time PRs, including this year at age. I just turned 52. So at age 52, I am at my all-time strongest. It's because I'm dialing in on my 24/7. And all of that is crucial to endurance sports. Never forget that. All right, let's dig into some data here. And let's just dig into some data. So this was a great course. So this is the first half of the course. Then this is that bridge. Then there's the turnaround, and then you go back. And so the thing with this course is that it runs north to south, and this is where you have the headwind. So this is where you, as a TT artist, you have to understand that if you have a headwind, even though you're going slower, that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck by dropping watt bombs. If you have a tailwind, that's where you get the least amount for your buck. So he did it perfectly. We see his power. His power trend line slightly goes down over the whole course. That is planned. That is perfect. He went out stronger, then he came back. Again, this was all planned for the fastest time possible. His speed, you can see it goes up. His power goes down, but his speed goes up. It's a very fast way home. And it's a slow out there, but it's a very fast way to get home. And then his cadence, as you can see, and this is quite normal, it typically drops for everybody as fatigue sets in. Your fatigue, your cadence drops, but it's not that much of a drop. So he did a great job racing that course. Then we have this is another way to show how hard he went out. This is your DFRC line, also called W prime. So basically the theory is that anytime that you go above your FTP for any extended period of time, you start to drain your anaerobic battery. So as watts go up, we access that battery and you start to drain that battery. And that blue line, and we have this athlete really dialed in terms of his modeling, his theoretical modeling. And so he's really super dialed in. So this is a pretty accurate line where he goes out. You can see him going across that bridge. He lightens up a little bit and then hammers it and then settles in. And then you can see he is, boom. But here was his big dig in that headwind. And if we compare the two out and backs, going out, it took him 24 minutes. Coming back, took him 23 minutes, right? That's awesome. IF, he went harder going out and a little bit softer coming back. 313 out, 296 back. Speed 25.4 out, 26.6 back. And that's one of the fundamental things, is that you can have all the watts in the world, but to get speed on a time trial course, you have to understand the course. You have to know where the wind is. You have to know where the hills are. And this athlete did if you wanted to think of a picture perfect TT where I really have no recommendations whatsoever as to make this athlete absolutely 100% gave me the best, most picture TT that you could possibly have. And remember, it's not by accident. He has raced this course before. He's had 13 races in his legs coming into this race. He had a brilliant 365 days, and he is maximizing 100% his 24/7, his lifestyle, if you will. And he crushed. The person who came in second came in 5 minutes behind him. And that's a 21-mile race, and he won by 5 minutes, and actually finishing in the top overall for the entire day. Hey, if you're interested in the TT, looking for coaching, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. I'm here. I'm a full-time coach, certified nutritionist, licensed coach, all that great stuff. Reach out, www.sanstead.com.